for this, and I don't have any. So this kind of kills the montage a little bit, but it is what it is. And it is good. Hello, good people of YouTube. Real life Mountbatten here. Another awkward situation because I'm not used to recording audio without headphones on. So as you can tell by the title of this video, we are going over the FN series of battle rifles. We in fact have the whole FN family right here in front of us for your viewing pleasure today. From where it all began with the FN-49, which this is not my gun. This is very generously sent to me by one Mr. Dragon King. You'll hear from him when we do our FN-49 standalone video. To the middle child, the FAL, which this one is mine. I'm a bit of an impulse buyer, and for those of you that watched the SCAR video, which, again, the FN will, well, the FN, these are all FNs, the FAL too will get its own standalone video, which I'm sure most of you will not want to miss. To the FN SCAR-17, which we've already done a standalone video on this. We talk a bit more about the operating system of the SCAR-17 along with the FAL and the FN-49 in this video, but we have done a standalone video on the SCAR-17. You'll see more of it and more clips of it being fired in today's video, but this is my dream rifle. For those of you that don't know, seen it in a lot of video games and such growing up. Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2, Battlefield, this is my go-to gun. And even in the current Modern Warfare 2, even though they kind of murdered it a little bit. But, yep, this is, speaking of effing things, the magnifier's getting a little wobbly here. Yeah, the SCAR has a reputation for doing that to sights, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. But today's video, we aren't going to be getting into the history of these rifles too much, because these rifles have storied histories enough to where they deserve their own video, which is why they're getting their own video. Today we're just going to be talking about operating system and the control setup and stuff, and talking about the evolution of this design that FN went with throughout these rifles. So that being said, let's go ahead and get started with the FN-49. So this rifle was, and again we'll talk more about this in this rifle standalone video, this was supposed to be Belgium's, well, an entry for the Belgian new main battle rifle. Now, let's talk about battle rifle versus assault rifle real quick. An assault rifle is a relatively new idea that came about in the 60s and 70s. That's a rifle that fires a fairly, well, what we consider standard cartridge, but intermediate cartridge. Something like an AR-15, an AK. If you want to see a good example of that, you can go see my previous Sunday's video with the C-39V2, which is, of course, an AK clone. That's a relatively new idea, but back in the 40s, 30s, 50s, and, of course, 60s, and still today, too, battle rifles are chambered in more of a full-size rifle caliber, and this thing certainly is. This is chambered in 8mm, which, thankfully, is still a relatively popular hunting round, so I can still get that stuff fairly cheap today, that is. And it's a pretty oomphy round. You definitely know you're firing a caliber larger than 7.62. So, operating this to show clear here, it's empty. The magazine, I mean, it does come out for cleaning, but that's not how you're meant to load it, so it's empty. So if you want to close the bolt after it being locked open, which you would want to do to keep crap from getting into the action of the rifle, what you need to do is, this is going to be very awkward doing this at a table. I guess set the rifle down if you're sitting at a white table recording a video for YouTube. Pull the bolt back, push down the follower on the magazine, let it go forward, and that's how you do that. Now that I just blew my microphone out and just eliminated all of your eardrums. So that's how you do that. Now, in terms of the gas system, this is a gas piston driven system. So up here at the front, this is the gas block. When you fire a round, the round travels through the barrel, and when it gets here, all that gas goes up into this gas port, and then there's a big old long piston that pushes back to the bolt, and the gas drives the bolt back where it chambers a new round, and you're ready to go. and you do that 8 times, because this is an 8-round magazine, then you're empty, you gotta reload. As far as the controls go, this is the safety lever right here, so it's on safe, and then if you need to fire, lift it up, you're on fire, push it back down to be unsafe. Pretty unconventional by today's standards, but for 1949, that's pretty par for the course in terms of safe. A lot of guns had safeties in, on, or around the trigger guard. There was something like this. If you go back to the M1 Grand video that I did, they had a little push one that you push forward to deactivate it or activate it. So yeah, pretty par for the course for the 40s. And this is a pretty hefty gun. Of course, it's a solid wooden stock. It's, of course, got a nice long full-length barrel on there as well. So it's pretty meaty, and it helps with the recoil for it being 8mm. And it's really fun to shoot, actually. And Dragon tuned this for his surplus, what was it? 180 grain rounds. And that's mostly German machine gun ammo, which isn't really all that accurate. But the thing about military rifles, too, is that they're designed to, of course, be handed out to some conscript and be super simple to operate. And they're not designed to be the most accurate guns on the planet. You're just having to put a hole in a human being from hopefully around 100-ish yards away, maybe out to 200 if you got the advantage of that. So again, they're just made good enough to hit a human size target at about 200 to 100 yards. So for what it is, it did pretty good on the range. And for firing brass, which this thing destroys brass because it's mostly, again, steel surplus ammo, or just good old cheap brass surplus ammo from my understanding. And let me find it sheet. Yeah, here it is. So the thing about 8mm, it is quite expensive, and I'll put a close-up of that up there. But it did pretty good. It did fire a little, well, off to the left and low, because again, the ammo that Dragon uses tends to be a bit high and to the right. So that's where his sights were set, and you can see it. Again, very much shooting a different type of ammo, you get different results. If you've never been into firearms or anything like that, ammo does very much matter when it comes to accuracy. Again, just using PPU, good old Serbian ammo. PPU makes like everything today that you might be interested in, all the oddball calibers and stuff, and it's still relatively affordable. I'm not sponsored by them, but I do use them for a lot of my oddball stuff. So yeah, again, pretty good performance. We were out to 50 yards. These are pistol targets, so it may look decently sized right here on camera, but like that's the size of my hand. And you put this out to 50 yards, and it looks teeny tiny. The front sight post on this rifle, the FAL, and even the SCAR, if I would be using the front sight post, would completely block this, and did completely block it in the case of the FAL and of the SCAR. And this is sighted in at the FN-49 sighted in at 100 yards. So again, you know, got there pretty quickly. That was shoot, I fired 16 rounds out of this one, because again, ammo be expensive, and it's not my gun, so I'm putting decent stuff through it. I'm not going to tear this one down fully because it's not my gun. These can be a little bit finicky at times from my research, and this one's running very well. So I'm sorry I'm not going to tear this one down on the channel. Dragon said I could, but it ain't my gun. You know, if I would mess something up and it would stop running right, I would hate myself. You can adjust the gas system here. Again, it's exactly like the FAL, and you're going to see that because that one is mine, and I will tear that one down for you. Alright, so that's the FN-49. Full video on this one coming out in the near future, so keep your eyes out for this. Again, thank you, Dragon, for letting me borrow your very nice and very in great condition FN-49. Fun fact, this one's Egyptian, so make sure you stick around for this video. On to the FAL. So as time went on, there was a competition being held, if you'll call it that, for NATO's new main service rifle. And, well, FN not one to back down from making money, except for when it comes to the case of making FALs in the United States or importing them. More on that in a moment. They went ahead and designed the FAL. This was, I mean, shoot, a super iconic gun of the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and still today. It is known as the right arm of the free world for a very good reason. Many a country, many a NATO allied country have and still to this day use this rifle. It is being phased out a bit because it is, of course, getting up there in age now with its design. It's approaching its... that's scary. The 60s were 60 years away now. God, that's spooky thinking about that. So yeah, it's getting up there in age, and it still absolutely rocks it, y'all. This thing, I had this out today, and she did fantastically well at the range. The only problem with her was the monkey behind it trying to shoot a pistol target at 50 yards because he didn't order any full-size targets. But yeah, I love this thing. I've been wanting to get one for a while, and when I got the SCAR, I thought, well, you know, it would be pretty cool if we get the FAL. I could do a video talking about the FAL and the SCAR and the differences between the two of them. And again, that's when Dragon stepped in and said, hey, you want the FN-49 too? Which, by the way, I should talk about this with the FN-49. I know a decent amount of people watching are probably not from the United States, and even if you are watching, you're from the United States. It's not like he just went to UPS, gave him the rifle, and then they mailed it direct to my doorstep. That's not how that works here. If you do want to send something like that through the mail, you have to go to your local FFL, which is normally your local gun shop. An FAL is a federal firearms license. People that have that have gone through the proper steps and the channels and such to acquire that license, and they're monitored by the government, by the ATF, and they handle transfers and things like that. So the way it worked is that Dragon went to his FFL, dropped off his rifle, and his FFL shipped it to my FFL. I went to my FFL, went through a background check, and then got Dragon's rifle. And then when it's time to send it back, I'm going to go to my FFL, send it back to Dragon. Dragon's going to go to his FFL, go through a background check, and get his rifle back. So it's all properly done. And these guys can't skirt corners, because if they do skirt corners, the ATF shows up and shoots your dog. So yeah, that's not a very pleasant time. So anyway, back to the FAL. So one thing to note, this isn't an FN FAL. Why? Those are expensive. Because of U.S. importation laws, there hasn't been any new FALs imported in, I think, the past 50 or so years, or 30 or 40 or so years. I have to look up exactly when the law went into effect. So the way U.S. importation laws work, there's very few companies that either have deals or grandfather clauses in place to where they can import rifles, and even when they do import them, a lot of times they're in very not optimal configurations for the U.S. market, so they have to be reworked into the proper product. So yeah, and for some reason FN hasn't gotten around to making any new FALs and importing them, because I don't know, as much as they like money, I guess they don't like money, because people would hop on this right away. What this is a DS Arms FAL, which it's built just like an FN FAL. It's the same design, except, you know, it's made with modern machinery and such, and the system's exactly the same. Now, the quality is, of course, not as good as FN's, but from what I've seen so far with this rifle, it's ran flawlessly so far. Now, of course, ammo's expensive. I haven't dumped like 1,000 rounds through this thing yet, but as of right now, she does have, I believe, around 250 rounds through her. I haven't had a single jam with the rifle. Now, I've had some problems with the magazines. These are not surplus magazines that I've been running with the FAL, because those don't exist on the market anymore. They've all pretty much been bought up. The only place you can get an actual steel surplus magazine is through some boomer on gun brokers selling them for like $100 a pop, which I ain't got that kind of money. So these are some DS Arms Polymer magazines. I had some troubles with them initially. Oh. Yes, I don't know. I might have overfilled the magazine, but that's not a good indicator. I think I might have overfilled it. I might have put 21 in a 20 round magazine. So let me clear this. Huh.
Caleb.
But I've ran quite a few rounds through. I have 3 of them. I've been running 2 of them primarily, and they do seem to be breaking in now and working properly. Get the crap out of these DS mags. He works today. And these are only like $20, so they are fairly cheap. But still, I would expect something to run right out the box. It's a magazine. It's not. You'd think it'd be pretty simple to do, especially with the people that make the actual rifle. But yeah, these gave me some troubles. They're running fine now. I'm 100% sure it's the magazine's fault and not the gun's fault. The gun's been running flawlessly since I got through the first like 50 rounds. So there is that. So, speaking of the FAL, how does this work? Well, it's literally the same system. Like, the gas system is exactly the same in this FAL as it is with the FN-49. It's just in a different caliber and a more modern chassis with a more modern control package, and it's a lot simpler to break this thing down than the FN-49. So again, at the front up here, this is the gas block. There is again a port, sends the gas up into the gas tube. The gas travels back. There's a big old metal piston back here. It travels back to the bolt, hits the, which by the way, we should have done this earlier, but rifle is clear, as you can see. Again, I already took the magazine out, showed you it was empty, but there's no bullet in there. So, bolt goes back, it picks up the next round, and you're ready to go yet again. For the controls, it's on a lot more modern of a setup here. The controls are all on the left-hand side of the rifle. Get that under my microphone's wire. So safety, it's on safe, fire. This is a little awkward for me. I don't have giant man hands apparently, and I was having trouble getting this on and off shooting from the bench. Standing up, I can get my hand around a little bit more, get my thumb to flip it on and off, but it's just a little bit out of reach. If this was just a little bit further back, the safety selector, I think it would be perfect. Okay, turn up my safety with my left hand like a ape. Isn't saying too much. I don't have the big man hands. Triggers down here. Right here is the bolt release, which was a little awkward at first because most modern rifles tend to follow the AR platform where the bolt release is up on the side. On the left-hand side, right here's the button you push, and then you're good to go. But it works. It works out pretty well because what you do is with the magazines, like you saw earlier, whoops, you take them out. The magazine release is right here. This is a little awkward to get used to too because I was trying to push it further up, but it works very well once you get used to rocking the magazines in and out. So you push that, rock the magazine out, and say, well, if you want to put a magazine, you rock it in. I think you might have heard that snap there. Again, these polymer magazines don't snap in as well as they should. But anyway, so the bolt gets held open, pop the old magazine out, pop the new one in. That wasn't as satisfying. And then, you pop it in like that. You're good to go. Works pretty well. The bolt handle on this particular model of FAL, which is right here, is what you use to charge the rifle. It is non-reciprocating. There are some earlier FALs that were reciprocating, which means the bolt handle will move back and forth with the bolt as you are firing. This one's not. That's great. I like my thumbs intact. And as you are firing, you kind of hold it like that. Feels pretty natural. So that's good. To disassemble it, first off, you got to get the magazine out. And there is a lever right here. You push this lever up. This is very stiff because, again, this rifle is very new. You push it up, and then it breaks open like a shotgun. There we go. Again, very new rifle. It's still very stiff. And that's it. You can pull the bolt carrier group out along with the bolt. It's the bolt right there. And then you're good to go ahead and get cleaning your rifle. I mean, this is as far as you need to go in terms of cleaning it. You just stick the cleaning rod down there, pull it out, make sure you got some patches with some oil on it, and then rinse, wash, and repeat until the rifle's clean. And it's actually really clean. This gas system is very clean. There's not a lot of, well, you guys can see that here. There's not a lot of powder or carbon on the bolt at all. Again, it's only about 200 or so rounds. Whoops. It does kind of just fall out if you aren't too careful about that. Let's go ahead and put that back in. Come on, get back in there. There we go. Yep, gotta play with it sometimes. It's not quite as clean as an AR. And then go back in there, you. And that's how you field strip it to clean. Then you gotta break your fingernail on the tight takedown lever again, and there you go. So it is pretty simple to clean and take apart once you get used to it. Just take some finagling. I mean, Cold War era weaponry here. So what's also really cool about the FAL is that they fixed an issue that was, well, and still is a thing on the FN-49. That is, if you want to adjust the gas system on an FN-49, you do have to take the top wooden cover off right here, which does include taking one of those bands off. If you have a military surplus rifle, those metal bands can be annoying at times. Up here on the FAL, it's all right here. This is the gas system adjuster, right? Gas system adjuster. I made that up. This is the gas plug adjuster. I don't know what this is called. Right up here. You can just move it with your thumb. If you can't move it with your thumb, you have problems. It could be a little tight, especially on a newer one, but there's these little divots in it. If you have a bullet, you can take that and then adjust it as needed. Out of the box, this one's worked pretty fine for me so far. The way that you normally set an FAL is that you take an magazine, so put it in, beat the crap out of it because it's a cheap polymer one, and then you put one round in the chamber, pull the trigger, and you want to get it to where the bolt gets held open by the magazine. When you have that done, your gas is set correctly according to most of the sources that I've read. Now, that being said, if you do have issues, like let's say you're in the jungle or whatever and you can't clean your rifle, obviously an unclean rifle isn't going to run as well as a clean one. So if you're in adverse conditions, you can crank this up and just give it the beans, and it should function. I know a lot of FALs in Africa, when they get either picked up or whatever, when they inspect them, they'll see that the gas tubes just fully let go, and I'm sorry, that the gas port's just fully opened up, and again, you're just getting all the gas. I mean, that'll ensure the rifle will work, that will wear down the rifle a lot faster. So ideally, you want to get your rifle to a happy medium to where you will make sure the internal bits don't get worn down any faster than they need to. Another thing about FALs, if you're thinking about getting one, there's not a lot of... It's not like an AR-15. There's not a lot of aftermarket support for them. I mean, there's a fair bit, but DS Arms is pretty much it for any type of big and then they're not even really a massive company, but a big box, if you will, support for the FAL. They have lots of parts. They make their own in-house stuff. They do kind of have a reputation like Century, where their quality assurance isn't that great, but the customer support is excellent from what I've seen. And if this one's any indication, they do seem to have cleaned up their QC quite a lot. And again, this one's ran flawlessly for the 200 or so rounds that I've ran through it. Again, not a huge amount of rounds through a rifle, but in the era of every bullet pretty much $1 is shot now because of pricing, that's what we're going to do for now. I got it that time, huh, man? Okay, put the tip of the post on the dot. So we need to go up to the left a little bit, but if I hold my aim on the same point, this thing's putting them through the same hole. It's amazing. You guys will see in a second. I'm gonna take the target down when I get done. But the FAL accuracy, the stories you've heard, as far as I'm concerned, they're all true. This is a DSA one. This isn't even a real FN. Same design though. The magazines are working out too, so I guess they just need to get broken in. Just have to beat the crap out of them for it to see it. Alright. Up to the left bit. I should probably take the safety off. Going ape mode using my left hand again. Again, I will be putting more rounds through it, and I'll keep you guys up to date on that. For the sling, this is an L1A1 surplus Australian sling. This is what most FALs, the type of slings most FALs had on in the 60s, 70s. And they usually can, of course, get, Magpul slings and stuff that'll work just fine on this. But for the aesthetics, I do like it. I do like it. But again, we're going to do a proper FAL video, and most of you won't want to miss that. Now, the SCAR. Again, have a whole separate video on the SCAR-17, but again, we didn't really talk about the gas system too much in that video. So the SCAR is a similar system to the FN-49 and the FAL, but also different. It is still a gas piston system, but it's more of a short stroke gas piston. So up here at the front, there's a very tiny piston at the front of your SCAR, if you have one, and it's literally like this big. It takes the gas, again, bullet travels down the barrel, gas gets sent up through the gas port into the gas block, and then back through the piston into the bolt carrier group, which is quite large. So remember the FALs, and again, magazine's empty, gun is empty. Remember the bolt carrier group from the FAL. As we get through the SCAR. SCAR's a lot easier to take apart than the FAL. One pin right there, a la an AR-15. But that's where the similarities in, because then you... there we go. This is the lower receiver. This is the part that... Fun fact! U.S. gun laws. This is the gun. This is the... actually, no, this may not be the gun. But on an AR-15, this is considered to be the gun. Where's the part? No. Okay, so I guess the upper part for the SCAR is the gun. The part that with the serial number on it is the gun for most rifles, most modern AR platform rifles, that's the lower receiver. But for the SCAR, I'm assuming it's the upper because that's got the serial number on it. So in this case, this is the gun. This is a useless chunk of plastic. It's funny on an AR-15 because all the magic in an AR-15, just like the SCAR, is in the top. But the lower receiver is the part you got to go through the background check for if you're building one. So now with that big bolt group moving around, as I put my SCAR back together, the recoil is a little bit different from the FN-49 to the SCAR, from the FAL too as well. It's less, but more. I find there's a lot more jerk around here, whereas with the FN-49 and the FAL, you can kind of feel, you know, the whole piston moving back, and that takes up the recoil. And if you watch the videos I'll be playing in the background of me at the range, you can see that between the FN-49 and the FAL, it's got a bit more of a kick. But with the SCAR, it's a bit more, it's jumpy, but it's not as much recoil. And that has to do with that big, you know, bolt carrier group moving around. It absorbs a lot more of that energy. And what I was saying about the magnifier earlier, that optics for a SCAR tend to not fare too well. You gotta get some pretty big, beefy optics that are designed for a 308 caliber round in particular, or some that are just beefed up to the SCAR's level. This is just a little EOTech, and I know quite a few of you said in the first SCAR video that this is the wrong type of EOTech, and need I think it's the C or the D variant that takes the little C batteries and not the AA batteries, because the way that the batteries are aligned, it will eventually kill the sight. I am getting a proper sight for this here in the next month or so. Yay, Christmas, you know. So that is getting fixed. Again, it is so cool seeing the design variations. Again, the FAL FN-49 almost identically the same. SCAR, they did some changes to the gas piston system to where it's a short, long stroke gas piston system. So again, you get that very short gas piston that pushes the bolt carrier group, which is technically a piston that's a long piston, but it's all one thing rather than being broken up like the FN-49 and the FAL. So, yeah, Belgian space waffle magic, if you will. All great guns, and guns that I love shooting. And thought you guys would like to see a little bit of a showcase here of them. So guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Again, we will be doing individual videos on the FAL and the FN-49, so keep your eyes out for that in the future. If you like this type of content, make sure to subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on. Let me know in the comments down below if you'd like to see more of this style of content. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a wonderful Sunday, wonderful rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one. Alright, so we go bang, 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 then I...
Dude, this is hard to do.
So we go boom, boom, boom.
Hello?
Water got in the mic.
Testing 1, 2, 3. I think Caleb destroyed my phone. Testing, testing, testing.